I'm going to start with a mildly controversial option. Swiss cheese is fine. It's not amazing, it's fine. But it's the only cheese that advertises its flaws right on the label. Holes. Big ones. And honestly, that's a better mindset than most of our assessments right now because we keep hoping for one perfect layer of proof. And the reality is, every layer has holes. You try to spread one strategy over the whole problem, and the mess still finds the gaps. So today is Swiss cheese evidence, not because we love holes, but because we plan for them. Hey, I'm Peter Weise. I've taught for 23 years, 18 of that in Kentwood. I teach high school science, chemistry, physics, and the science of cooking. But this show is for all secondary teachers. Today, I'll leave you with one assessment redesign pattern that you can run next week. 3 evidence layers that hold up without turning you into a detective. Okay, here's the thing. In an AI-saturated world, we're all feeling the same tension. You want to trust your kids, you also want grades to mean something, and you want to keep your own workload within the bounds of human life. The mistake people make is they often look for one magic integrity move, like if I just versioned history, or if I just do a detector, or if I just do the assignment in Google Docs, or if I just say no AI, or if I just say no technology at all, just paper pencil. And it feels safe until it fails, because every single one of these has holes. So the key idea is not to find the perfect layer, the key is to stack a few imperfect layers so the holes don't line up. That's Swiss cheese evidence. Swiss cheese evidence means instead of grading one big product that could be outsourced, you collect 3 small kinds of proof that the students can actually do the thinking. And the 3 layers I'm going to give you today are dead simple: anchor, artifact, defense, or transfer. And I want you to hear that as a teacher move, not as a paperwork move with more paperwork or more long grading sessions. Swiss cheese evidence doesn't mean that you become a cop. It does not mean that you accuse kids. It does not mean that you have 7 new hoops and everyone hates you. It also doesn't mean you ban tools and pretend we're back in 1995. None of that. It means you design assessments so the learning shows up in places you can actually see. All right, first layer, that's the anchor. The anchor is the in-class baseline sample, 5 to 12 minutes. You can do it on a Tuesday. It answers one question: can you do the core thinking when I'm in the room? Not the whole project, not the polished thing, just the core move. The second layer is artifact. Artifact is process evidence that matches the work. It answers, can you show the decisions and steps that got you there? This is where people accidentally get weird. Artifact is not a fake worksheet you add just because you're nervous. Artifact should be something that actually helps them work. Annotations, a decision log, work steps, a data table, sourcing notes, a revision map. The third layer is the defense or transfer. So defense is interactive. You ask a couple questions, they point to their work, they explain one choice, you listen. Transfer is new context, same skills, slightly different situation. They apply the thinking to something they didn't rehearse. And for major assessments, here's your rule. At least one layer needs to be interactive or transfer-based. Something you can't fully outsource this, something you can see. I'm going to do a science anchor example first because that's my daily life. Then we'll hit an ELA one, and then we'll do a quick bridge math and social studies without turning this into a checklist episode. So here's science. Imagine chemistry, or the science of cooking. We're talking about browning food, Maillard reaction versus caramelization. Kids can absolutely get a gorgeous paragraph from the internet or from AI about complex chemical reactions that produce flavor compounds. Great, love the vibes, not the grading vibes. So my anchor is 7 minutes in class. I put up 2 photos, 2 brown foods, and I say, make a claim. Which reaction is dominant in each? Justify with 2 observations, and then add 1 uncertainty. That's it. So maybe I might actually say, okay, you have 7 minutes. Claim evidence reasoning, 2 observations, 1 uncertainty. If you get stuck, write what you're stuck on. That counts as data for me. While students write, I walk. I'm looking for whether the evidence actually connects to the mechanism, not perfect accuracy, but actual thinking. Their artifact is a tiny decision log, 3 lines. It's basically, I use this evidence because, I rejected this other idea because, if I had more data, I'd want. Again, not a hoop. It's how scientists think. It's how cooks think too, honestly. Now transfer. At the end, I add a twist. Now predict what changes if we lower temperature and increase time. You can't memorize your way out of that. You can't paste your way out of that. You have to reason. That's the anchor artifact transfer. 3 layers, holes covered. So, quick recap. Anchor is the in-class baseline, artifact is the process or proof, transfer is the new context application. So, now let's jump disciplines. ELA. Picture a colleague teaching 10th grade argument writing. A classic vulnerability right now is the polished essay. It can look amazing, it can also be basically rented. So here's a 3-layer stack that doesn't wreck your week. Anchor. In class, 5 to 8 minutes, you give a short paragraph, not the whole article, a paragraph, and they annotate and identify claim, evidence, and warrant. Warrant is just the because that connects evidence to claim. If that word is new to your kids, you define it in one sentence and move on. The warrant is the bridge. It's the reasoning link. So teacher talk lines might be like, underline the claim, box the evidence, now write the warrant in your own words. If you can't find it, write what you think the author is assuming. That anchor gives you a baseline of whether they can see the logic. So the artifact is an argumentative map, boxes and arrows, or a short revision decision log. Here's the change I made, here's why, here's what's improved. Again, not extra, that's just good writing practice. Now, the defense is quick, 3 minutes. You ask, point to your warrant. If I remove this sentence, what breaks and why? You're listening for whether they can explain the reasoning link, not whether they can perform confidence. And notice what just happened. We didn't add a bunch of policy. We didn't add a detector. We didn't say, don't use this tool. We designed evidence. Okay, math, 1-sentence version. A math teacher might do an anchor that's a 6-minute solve and narrate. Show your steps, narrate one decision. The artifact is the reasonableness check, like an estimate, units check, or a second method. And transfer is the same concept with one constraint change. That's it. A social studies teacher might do an anchor while students make a claim from a short document. The artifact is sourcing notes, who wrote it, why, reliability, bias, and the transfer is applying that sourcing lens to a new document or a modern parallel. Boom, got it. Now, let's talk about the other half of today's title, reducing incentives to cheat. Because stacking evidence helps, but it's not the full picture. Here's where it gets weird. A lot of academic dishonesty is not a kids are bad story. It's an incentive story. It's a pressure story. It's a design story. If the grade rewards polish more than thinking, students will outsource polish. If the proof happens at home, students will use home tools. If the task is high stakes and feels impossible, the temptation goes up. So the key idea is change the payoff structure. And you can do that with 3 levers: what you grade, when you grade it, where it happens. Let's do them fast with some teacher language. What you grade. If you grade only the final product, you're basically paying for a good-looking product. And good-looking products are easier than ever to manufacture. So instead, grade decisions, grade reasoning, grade verification, grade transfer. Grade the part that proves learning. So this grade is mostly about your reasoning and your transfer. The final product matters, but it's not the whole story. So when you grade it, if everything is high stakes, kids will treat everything like a game they can't afford to lose. That's not a moral judgment, that's a system response. So you shift more of the work into low stakes reps, drafting, practice problems, planning, feedback cycles, and you reserve the higher weight for the proof layer, usually the transfer or the defense. So most of your practice is rep credit. The proof happens in class. So where this happens, and here's the blunt version, if the big grade happens at home, then home resources will dominate. That includes helpful resources, and that includes not so helpful resources. So you let home be drafting and practice, and you move proof into class, anchor, defense, transfer, quick and predictable. So some teacher talk might be, you can draft at home, you prove it here, that's the deal. Now I want to pause here for the biggest misconception that I can see. This does not mean you never assign homework. It does not mean you never use tech. It does not mean every assessment must be supervised like a bank vault. No. It means you're clear about what counts as practice and what counts as proof. Okay, now we need one concrete classroom story to make this feel real. A 9th grade team assigns a take-home research paper, and suddenly the submissions are flawless, like suspiciously flawless. Like, did we accidentally assign this to AP English teachers flawless? The old move is to go into detective mode, and that's exhausting, and it blows up trust, and half the time you still can't prove anything. So instead, the teacher redesigns. Next time, students do a 10-minute in-class anchor analyzing one source. They write a claim, cite one piece of evidence, and write one sentence explaining why that evidence supports the claim. Then the artifact is a decision log during drafting. Just 3 checkpoints. Here's the claim I'm making. Here's my planned resources. Here's the change I made after feedback. Then the proof is a 4-minute micro defense during a workday, not a trial, a conversation. So like question 1, show me one choice you made that mattered. Second question, if I challenge your claim with this counterpoint, what happens? And 2 weeks later, the number of weird mismatches drops. The teacher's grading time drops. The student's stress drops because the proof is predictable. And that's the thing. Predictable proof is calmer than surprise policing. All right, now we need the micro defense routine because this is where teachers go, cool, Peter, when, with what time? So fair question. Here's the fast version. 4 minutes, 2 questions, 1 transfer twist. And yes, it's still work, but it's different work. And it's the work that replaces hours of suspicion and paperwork and that awkward conversation later. Here's the setup. You tell the students in advance, everyone will do a short defense. This is normal, it's not punishment. You pick 2 questions you can reuse across the unit and you keep them consistent. That's how it stays fair. And here are sample questions that work in almost any class. Show me one decision you made that mattered. What did you try first and why? And then one twist. If we change this condition, what changes in your approach? So some teacher talk lines I could actually use are like, okay, this is a 4-minute check-in. This is the same questions for everyone. I'm not trying to catch you. I'm just trying to understand how you think. Point to your work. Show me where the important decisions happen. Now let's do a quick twist. Same skill, slightly different case. Students bring their artifact. They point. They explain. You listen for coherence, specifically whether they can adapt. And here's what you're looking for, the evidence of learning. Do they reference their own work like it's familiar? Can they explain a decision without reading a script? When you change the condition, can they try to reason even if they're not perfect? Now, troubleshooting if this goes sideways. If a student freezes, you don't turn it into a public moment. You give them a reset prompt. Okay, take 10 seconds. Put your finger on the part that you're most confident about. Or start with what you tried first. Or tell me what this symbol means in your own words. And if the artifact is empty, that's also data. You don't punish the silence, you respond to it. That might mean you scaffold the artifact more next time, or you do one defense question as a whole class routine before you do it one-on-one. Okay, we're moving fast, so here comes your note-taking pause. This is the one I really want you to actually jot down. Ready? Swiss cheese evidence equals anchor, artifact, defense, or transfer. Anchor is in-class baseline, artifact is process proof, defense or transfer is interactive or new context proof. Pause for 5 seconds and jot that down. All right, now quick pitfalls, because this is where good ideas go to die. Pitfall number 1, making everything high stakes. If the anchor, the artifact, and the defense are all high stakes, you just built a stress factory, and stress factories produce weird behavior. That's the technical term. The fix is keep the artifact low stakes or feedback based. Put most of the weight on the proof layer you can verify best, usually the transfer or the defense. Pitfall number 2 is adding layers that aren't rerunnable. If your artifact becomes a multi-page form, you will not keep doing it. And if you don't keep doing it, kids won't take it seriously. So the fix is to shrink it. 3 lines, 1 page, a photo of steps, a quick map. Make it something they would do anyway. And then pitfall number 3 is escalating surveillance. If your response is more monitoring, more policing, you may get short-term compliance and long-term damage to trust, to relationships, to actual learning. So the fix is to redesign evidence, be explicit, be calm, repeat the 3 layers. Okay, try it this week. This is the low prep version. Pick one assessment you're already planning on, one, and redesign it into 3 pieces: anchor, artifact, defense, or transfer. Here's how you could do it in under like 40 minutes. Step 1, write the anchor prompt. Take about 5 to 10 minutes. This should target the core thinking, not the whole task. Step 2, choose one artifact, something that proves process and helps them work. Step 3 is to write either 1 transfer prompt or 2 defense questions. Keep it reusable. And step 4, decide grade weights. Put more weight on the layer you can verify best, usually the transfer or the defense. So what success looks like is that you can actually explain the grade using evidence you personally observed. Students can answer, why did you do it this way, without panic. And you have fewer integrity conversations because the proof is built in. Last quick tool note, because tools are everywhere and we're not pretending they're not. If you mention any tool in your class, keep it simple, and you can use a digital helper for brainstorming or feedback, but your anchor and transfer are you. And if you don't want tools involved, same structure still works. The structure is the point. And privacy is a concern, so the safest move is to keep student identifiers out of anything public and keep the proof layer in class where you can control the environment. That's the whole sentence. Done. Okay, quick recap. Swiss cheese evidence is not about finding the perfect assignment. It's about stacking 3 rerunnable layers so the holes don't line up. And reducing incentives is about changing what you grade, when you grade it, and where the proof happens. If you try this, I would generally love to hear how it goes. What did you choose for your anchor? What did you choose for your artifact? And what did you do for your defense or transfer? Send me the versions that work and also the versions that totally flop, because those are usually the best lessons. I'm Peter Weise. This is Science Wise. Sources are down in the doobly-doo if you want to dig deeper, and I'll see you next time.